wildfire explodes in Glenwood Springs. The interstate is closed for miles, and order to evacuate could come at any time.
College football was supposed to keep people in the bars from noon until night. Now it may not happen at all.
How much worse can it get?
What is behind the constant mind-numbing noise in the North Metro?
This is making our lives pretty much a living hell.
We begin with the breaking news just outside of Glenwood Springs, where in the last 4 hours, the Grizzly Creek fire has gone from 50 acres to 1,400 acres in size. People have been warned they may need to evacuate if the situation goes sideways.
The fire has closed I-70 both directions, and painfully slow detours are now in place right now. The Garfield County Sheriff's Office is telling people to add 2 hours onto their ETAs. We have a crew making the drive right now, in fact, and they will be live from the fire lines tonight on Denver7 News at 10. And meanwhile, several people are still out of their homes tonight in Garfield County because of the Pine Gulch fire. More than 29,000 acres have burned north of Grand Junction. You probably smelled the smoke from it this weekend. And containment at this hour is just 7%. The forecast was so bad for firefighters today, but it could be even worse tomorrow. Chief Meteorologist Mike Nelson has details on that. Mike?
Well, you know, we've been expecting this to come along all summer with the drought conditions that have just been rolling on across all of the Central Rockies. We now have all of Colorado under drought conditions, as well as moderate to the north as to severe and extreme farther to the south. Today we got a bit of a break in the weather, actually, because the temperatures have been slightly cooler, but it's not at the expense of any moisture coming our way. There's isolated storms around, but the fire danger stays high, and this is not good news. This is the brand new 10-day forecast. Warmer and drier than average all across the Central Rockies. There's very little moisture coming our way. So the more hot days, we're going to be back into the mid to upper 90s. In the mountains, it'll be 80s. A few gusty storms will produce wind and lightning, but little in the way of meaningful moisture. Fire danger will continue to increase. We'll check out the extended outlook for you in a few more minutes.
Okay, thank you, Mike. We'll see you in just a little bit. CSU, Air Force, and the rest of the Mountain West deciding late this evening to postpone football, possibly until the spring. And all signs point to the Big Ten scrapping the season altogether. The University of Colorado and the rest of the Pac-12 are expected to make an announcement tomorrow.
There are no easy answers here. Players and pundits can't even agree on whether athletes will be safer for it. What we know for certain is this will come at a big financial cost. CU especially can expect to take a multi-million-dollar hit. Businesses and restaurants will see their game day boost disappear.
And tonight from Boulder, Denver7's Sean Toll is following the money or lack thereof. Sean?
Yeah, the Pac-12 presidents are scheduled to meet tomorrow about potentially delaying the season until spring or trying to play this fall. But regardless of a delay or an impact, delay or a postponement, it's gonna have a huge impact across the board. It has been very quiet around Folsom Field, and the fear is the silence will last through the fall football season.
My Saturdays are going to be less entertaining.
Players have taken to social media to express their desire to play, even backed by President Trump, and many fans agree.
Yeah, I think they should.
I think it's a bad idea for them to not. Canceling it right now is just a bad decision.
But health concerns have many universities reconsidering the fall season.
This is the center of pre- and post-game campus life. It's a huge cash flow boost for us. Football is a big chunk of our profitability for the whole year.
Chris Heinrichs owns The Sink in Boulder.
We'll have 800,000 people through on a Saturday.
And if there's no fall football,
it's hard to say, how much worse can it get?
Because it's been that bad of a year.
We're not hoping to make any money this year. We're hoping to be alive when this is all over.
The Big Ten, presumably the first major conference to announce postponing its season, has plenty of Colorado alumni.
There's 4 hours of free time to do something different, I guess.
And the alumni bars will suffer without fans to come watch.
I was able to get in touch with one of them, the Kentucky Inn, and they, of course, are devastated.
Yeah, many potential impacts if that all shakes out. And I reached out to the CU administration and the athletic department about what postponement could mean for them. And they said they plan to address that as soon as it all shakes itself out. And that could come as early as Wednesday. Reporting live in Boulder, Sean Toll, Denver7.
Nothing about this has been easy. Sean, thanks. Denver has closed 2 more businesses for failing to meet health standards. Williams Tavern was shut down Friday because they were selling booze after the 10 o'clock cutoff. Now, the city adds there was also little in the way of social distancing and masks were at a minimum. Tetra, a pot lounge over on Walnut Street, was also ordered to close because people were smoking, and that is not allowed right now. 11 other businesses were ticketed.
And evidence suggests that most people are taking the virus seriously, though. Another 380 cases of COVID were reported by the state today, but last week we were averaging in the mid-400s, and a month ago we were seeing 600 a day. Hospitals are doing no better, no worse than before. 319 beds are currently occupied by suspected or confirmed COVID patients. More than 10,000 sit empty. Pepsi Center is no longer the only mass testing site in the metro. The Aurora Sports Park on East Colfax and Water World are now open for testing from 8 to 4, 7 days a week. Governor Polis says people should expect results within 2 to 4 days.
With the quicker testing, we look forward to driving that positivity rate even lower, alerting people earlier in the process, empowering our tracers to be able to do their work even better, and also letting people who are negative return to their normal lives a little bit more quickly after they get better from a simple cold.
Good news, and the sites can administer thousands of tests a day. Pre-registering online is suggested, but not required.
A Weld County jailer is facing DUI charges tonight. Greeley police say Michael Ryan was drunk when he crashed his car and then hid in a marsh Friday night. In 2005, Ryan pleaded guilty to driving while impaired and then to DUI later that same year. In 2010, arrested for public urination. The Weld County Sheriff's Office tells us it's currently working through the termination process. Still no word tonight on whether the 2 weekend drive-by shootings are connected. 9 people were shot Sunday during a family gathering at Byers and Pecos Park. The oldest, 27 years old, the youngest, 3 years old. All are expected to survive. Now in Lakewood, shots were fired from an SUV into a house party on Frontage Road. 2 men were hit, and the last we heard, they were in critical condition.
Sleeping in is no longer an option in parts of Westminster and Arvada. A nearby airport has seen to that.
Flights are frequent. They're waking up neighbors very early. And before you say, hey, that's what you get for living near an airport, well, no, it wasn't always like this.
No, Denver7 investigates Jennifer Kowaleski tonight with why it's suddenly so noisy and what's being done about it.
Walnut Grove is due south of the airport.
When you live 3 miles from an airport,
There's a plane right there.
the early morning sound of an occasional plane overhead
This will start at about 6:30 a.m.
is nothing new.
and go well into the afternoon, 7 days a week.
Till those roaring engine noises turn into a constant wake-up call.
It's not a alarm clock of choice, let's put it that way.
Brad Fountain has called Westminster home for more than 2 decades.
The routing of these training aircraft has never been like it is now.
He says something changed this summer.
This is making our lives pretty much a living hell. We've got one coming here. Last week, in an hour and a half, I counted 40 flights.
That would be, no doubt, a pilot training aircraft.
Roger lives down the street and has for 42 years.
Regular airport traffic is no problem.
He's also noticed an uptick in training flights over his house.
I feel it's a safety issue, too, for the neighborhood here.
We are having a busy summer.
Paul Anslow is the guy in charge at Rocky Mountain Metropolitan Airport.
Our flight schools are busy training future airline pilots. And so, yes, there's sort of an increase in noise.
Anslow says there are 4 flight schools that operate here. And Westminster isn't the only community complaining about more noise.
The towns of Superior and Louisville and Arvada and the surrounding communities, along with Jefferson County leading it, we're in the midst of creating a noise roundtable.
The roundtable will bring city leaders from each community to the table to talk solutions. But when it comes to where planes fly, that's up to the FAA. And Anslow says any flight path changes are at least 2 years out.
The FAA has not changed any flight paths than what they've been doing since we opened in 1960.
In the meantime, the airport put out voluntary guidelines for pilots to keep the noise down, a curfew after 10, and other suggestions to fly quieter.
I believe it's a volume thing. I truly do.
Here comes another plane.
But for Fountain,
We want our peace and quiet back.
these sounds are becoming way too familiar.
We just want these flights rerouted.
I'm Denver7 investigator Jennifer Kowaleski.
Listen to this. 3 years ago, A busy day at the airport was about 450 flights. Now, on a normal day, 725. Speaking of noise, this week contractors working on the Central 70 project will ask permission from Denver to work at night. There'll be a hearing on this Thursday, and if it goes their way, construction will be allowed after dark through 2022.
To our viewers down south, your long highway nightmare is halfway over. The I-25 Gap project is nearing the end of phase 1, and that will make for less construction just south of Castle Rock and hopefully fewer accidents and backups as a result.
We have had issues throughout this of a lot of crashes.
We just turned the car off.
3 hours. Yeah.
Ugh, that project should be finished by 2022. That's when the new express lanes will open. A decision on pit bulls and the Denver ballot will be made tonight. City Council voted to repeal the breed ban earlier this year, but Mayor Hancock stopped that with a veto. They are now expected to put it on the November ballot and let voters decide.
Lafayette still in full analog mode tonight following a cyber attack last month. And payments can't be made online. Utility bills are going out late. So annoying as it is, Lafayette leaders say it could have been much worse. Had they not paid hackers their $45,000 ransom, they say the city would have had to rebuild its systems from scratch.